Welcome to BookWorthy. Today we're talking again with author Maria Antonia. You might remember her from a Christmas episode featuring her book, The Christmas Elephant, a nativity story. But today we are not talking about elephants, but sheep. Not just any sheep, but Barnaby the sheep. It's a story that reminds us that the Good Shepherd is always with us and he speaks to our hearts. Welcome back to BookWorthy, Maria.
Hi, thank you for having me back, Valerie.
It is a pleasure to have you. To get us going, I thought we'd talk about what is your favorite thing about summer.
So when I was a kid and in school, summertime meant book reading time. I loved it that I could just relax and read as much as I wanted to. So it's not quite the same for me now. I have to work during part of the summer at least. So summertime now for me means visiting usually with my sister, my brothers, so family, visiting with family during, when they have vacation and when I have vacation, our vacations coincide. Yeah, then we visit. We don't do a lot of reading during those visits, but I always fit in reading.
Bound to find a book somewhere. Right?
Yes.
Very fun. Now, you're up in Canada, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, the Great White North isn't quite great white during the summer. What is it like up there?
So in the summer, it's very green. I live near Niagara Falls, so we have a lot of fruit trees and we're sort of in the fruit belt, and we got peaches and pears, and we personally have a plum tree and cherry trees and a pear tree. And our neighbor she used to have apricots, which are amazing. So that's summertime means, I know we have raspberries too, and blackberries. So summertime means a lot of berrying and fruit eating.
A lot of fruit.
Yeah.
I grew up with a pear tree and a peach tree and an apple tree in my backyard, and it was always just fun to climb that tree and pick the pears. It wasn't so much fun picking up the pears that were on the ground, but there's some good memories with pear trees.
Yeah, and then when I was really little, we lived next door to a farm, and we had this apple tree that had just these little apples that were very sour, and I just remember, to this day, I remember eating those sour apples, which I actually like sour apples, so it's not a big deal. But yes, that was good memories.
I'm not big on sour apples, but my son is. And so I have to have almost 24 green apples in my house on a weekly basis just so that he can eat them all.
Yes.
Because he definitely likes that sour taste. So, well, Maria, tell us a little bit about Barnaby, the runaway sheep.
So Barnaby, the runaway sheep, initially started when I was just scrolling on social media, and I came across a post about a sheep that lived in New Zealand, and he ran away. And his shepherds found him 6 years after he had run away. He had actually gone to live in a cave, and he was very hot. He had a lot of wool, and he wasn't doing good at the end of that. And the social media post, I think it had something to do with pointing us to the story in the Bible where Jesus talks about the lost sheep and how the lost sheep, the shepherd comes and finds the lost sheep. And so this story of Shrek, the sheep in New Zealand, his shepherds found him, brought him home, feared him. Here's normally a good someone who is able to do. I had to do research on this. I've never lived next door to sheep. I've seen them in pastures, but I've never had to raise them. But anyhow, when you shear a sheep, which you have to do, I think, at least once, if not sometimes twice a year. The way sheep, they need that wool taken off, and it's a process that normally takes a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Shrek needed 20 minutes to shear him because his wool was so thick. Now, I have a picture in the back of the book for those who are able to see this, but like that is Shrek in all
That's a
his
lot of wool.
in all his glory. I mean, he couldn't. I don't even think he could get up. He was basically stuck. And yes, it was just by coincidence that his shepherds found him, and yeah, in his special cave. So this story just captured my imagination. I thought, I this has to be a devotional. It has to be something. And I actually started off with like a poem or like a really short story. I don't like poetry. To me, in my brain says poetry needs to rhyme. And I know it doesn't. And so when I don't do rhyme well, or at least I don't want to put in the effort to learn how to rhyme well. So
it is a process for sure.
Absolutely. And I am amazed at the people who are able to rhyme well. And when I read a picture book that is in rhyme, it's well done well, like it's beautiful. I don't do that. But I did write this like short 50-word thing. And I found it just a little while ago. I was researching how Barnaby came to be. Yeah, 50 words, this little poem called The Lost Sheep, and it talks about Shrek. And that was my first draft. And I was busy with something at the time. This is actually around the time when I got my agent. So I was busy. We were going to put out other books. And so I just let it sit. And I like to let things sit. Like as a writer, I like to let my stories sit anyhow, just kind of percolating in the back of my brain. And when I came back, I thought, well, maybe it could be a devotional. Maybe it could be maybe I should write it about Shrek. So I started to write about Shrek. I thought, I don't really want to be sued for the name. I mean, not that, and they do say online that when you talk about Shrek the sheep, you're supposed to say Shrek the sheep because it's different than Shrek the ogre from the movie. So
similarities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the reason why they named him Shrek, right? Because he kind of looked a bit like an ogre, an ogre of the sheepish ogre. So anyhow, so I decided, you know what, why don't I try just fictionalizing it? Then I can change, because I wasn't there. I don't know the exact details. I've never been to New Zealand. I've seen pictures of it. It's very beautiful. But let me make a fictional place, a fictional farm. And I did. And like I said earlier, I did not work. I lived next to a farm when I was a kid, and we would do like we would play in the barn, like jump in the hay mound. That was very fun. They didn't have sheep, but they had horses initially and cows when I was really little. And then when I got to be a little older, it became goats. So I actually have a slight fear of goats from this time period in my life. I wrote a story as I was working on Shrek. I was also working on a similar story about goats and called Speedy the Goat or Speedy the Kid, and how I put myself in the so I created two characters. One was scared and one was the one who actually owned the goats. So anyhow, that actually became a magazine story, and it was the first time I'd taken an animal and written from the animal's point of view. So I wrote from Speedy's point of view. And that was interesting because the real Speedy, and his name really was Speedy, the real Speedy was like brought fear to my little 6-year-old heart. And all all the little girls, we would all my sister and then the two girls that lived at the farm, if we would see Speedy, we would run out of there because Speedy would headbutt us. So anyhow, so it was really interesting writing in the point of view of Speedy. And I thought, well, I could do this for my little sheep. And I initially called him Brutus, probably because of Shrek. And one of my critique partners said, he does this, so he's So Barnaby does these little wiggle dances. He's kind of silly and just cute like that. And one of my critique partners says, Maria, Brutus just doesn't seem quite the right name for a little sheep that does wiggle dances. And so I thought, you're right, you're right. So I went back to the drawing board and I came up with the name Barnaby. I thought Barnaby was kind of a name that was a little bit silly. It had the word barn in it. I thought that was cool. Like it works with the farm. So he became Barnaby, the runaway sheep. And I kept the same idea of Shrek's real story, Shrek the sheep's real story, where he runs away. And although I gave Barnaby a reason, he didn't want haircut, like he didn't want to be sheared. And I remember as a kid, my mom would cut my hair. She wouldn't. I wanted long hair, and I was not allowed to have long hair because of the snarls. And now I understand that, but like as a kid, I wanted to be a ballerina, and ballerinas have to have long hair in my world. And so she would cut my hair, and it was kind of scary. It was I did not enjoy it. I've watched my nephews and niece. I've watched them get their hair cut by their mothers, and I totally understand. And when I did research again, like these clippers, and they asked me when my publisher asked me, what kind of, do you want the electric kind or no, I want the scissor kind. I want the clippers, like no electric things they are, that's what they look like.
Yeah.
They're sharp. They're pretty long. And so I sent them a picture. This is what they should look like. That's what I want. And I watched videos on farmers shearing their sheep with the old clippers. I watched them too with the electric ones, but I wanted the actual scissor type clippers, and they look very sharp. And so I gave that as a fear for my little sheep.
Most definitely.
And, yeah. So he runs away. He tries to hide at first, and that doesn't work. So he ends up in a cave, just like Shrek the sheep. And he doesn't. I don't think he lives there for six long years. But
it doesn't look quite as full as Shrek the sheep.
Yes,
but...
and that was the other thing that I think was nice about being able to fictionalize it, is that I could make it. But we do have like the year pass. Like if you watch it's very spring-like, and this is actually something that I know my editor and I talked about. Like the trees in the back are all have like their apple blossoms or cherry blossoms or some sort of fruit trees that growing back there. And then by the end, it's very autumn-like. And so the illustrator, Sayani Mukherjee, she did a beautiful job with the illustrations. I love them. I love everything about them. And yeah, so
Barnaby is the illustrator did an amazing job on just keeping the cute sweetness of Barnaby and just his wiggle dances, but also communicating that fear that we all kind of have in different situations. Now, do you hope kids walk away from with this book?
Well, I hope that they know that, even if something scares them, that you have to know who your shepherds are. And that's I know when we were coming up with the activity guide for this, one of the questions is like, who are the shepherds in your life? And definitely your parents, like aunts and uncles, like teachers, pastors, different, could be babysitter, whatever. Like, I think it's good that kids know that there are shepherds that when they ask us to do something that's a little scary, that we can trust them. And that's one thing that Barnaby he has to learn how to trust his shepherds. And, ultimately the good shepherd is Jesus. And that's who we ultimately trust. But he does put in, God puts in lower shepherds. And this is why it's kind of neat that, so I have two shepherds in the story, and they're called the small shepherd and the tall shepherd. And I don't name them, but let me see, there's a good picture with them. So, like the small shepherd is obviously a little boy, and they don't get named, but the small shepherd always calls the tall shepherd dad. And it's sort of a hint to, just here we are. This is maybe our parents. And then this is dad. This is our God. It's like Jesus or God, that he's the father of us. So I kind of snuck that in there. And most people, no one has mentioned that to me, and now I'm saying it here, so maybe people will mention that. But that was sort of the idea behind that.
It's fun to see the different layers that you put into it, because it's not just about, being obedient, or to trust your shepherd, but it's also about, the shepherds looking for Barnaby, and, also the fear of the shearers, and that even the scary thing can be for our good. Because what I know about sheep a little bit, they're also shorn because they, bugs can get in there, and, I don't know, it can get gross or
hot.
It's hot.
It can be really hot, yeah.
And it can get yucky really fast. Like that idea that white fluffy sheep are beautiful and pristine is really just not what sheep are. No. So they're shorn so that they're kept healthy, so that the shepherd can see, are there wounds? Is there infection? Is there something wrong that needs to be cared for? And, it's a lot of times with, what John 15 says about, I am the vine, you are the branches. And they talk about pruning. Like a few years ago, I was going through just a hard time, and God pointed me to this verse, and I just was pruning a bush in my backyard, and I found a wasp nest. And and we have a lot of kids.
Yep.
Excuse me. A lot of kids in our backyard often. And so I was like, well, if I hadn't trimmed this tree, I would not have found that wasp nest, and kids in the neighborhood could have gotten stung, and I don't know if they're allergic or not. And so it could have gone really bad really fast. And I love that about thinking about our shepherd, and thinking about, sometimes it may not seem like the best thing that we're walking in, but God's working in it. He has a reason for it, and that he has good plans for us, even if we have to walk through a valley of the shadow of death for a little while. He's still going to come on the other side and take care of us. And I love that about Barnaby's story, and communicating that to young kids.
Yeah. That is, there's so much that I think you could go with, like, different ways with this. And that's what I love about being able to do storytelling, is being able to fit little things in there like that. So, yes.
That's sweet. Now, you mentioned an activity book. What do you have in your activity page for Barnaby?
Yeah, so my publisher and I came up with, now I'm thinking, what did we put in there? Oh, we did like I think we did like a matching game, where, like, a memory. So we did little cards where the different matching up the small shepherd and different things of Barnaby. I think we did like a little board game as well. So yeah, that's actually all getting ready. I'm getting ready for that for my next newsletter. I think I'm going to be offering that as a free bonus for anyone who is subscribed. So yeah, you get that.
Very neat. Now, what can we expect next from you, Maria?
So I'm working on a bunch of different, I have a few picture books out there that are on submission, and I'm working on some middle grade novels as well. I'm sort of in a couple planning, sort of one that I'm not sure if it might be mystery or not. And then I'm sort of in the revision that my agent's actually already seen this other one, so she wanted some revision. So we'll see. I'm hoping to get those onto submission, and we'll see what happens with that.
I think, what is it with authors? You're always working on something, right?
Yes. Yes.
Small, long, everywhere in between.
Absolutely.
Always working on something. Too fun. Well, you mentioned your newsletter, and where can people find out how to join that and find out more about you?
So my website is mariaantoniawrites.com. And yes, you can sign up for my newsletter. I have other freebies on there as well that that people can download for free. And it has all the links to my books and just information about me and all sorts of things.
And I think I even saw Speedy the Kid pictured on your website also.
That's right. Speedy the Kid came out a couple years ago as a magazine story, and yes, that was a fun. It turned out well, so that's exciting.
Too fun. Well, we'll make sure to have those links in the descriptions for our listeners for sure. Thank you for joining me today, Maria.
Well, thank you for having me, Valerie. It's been fun to be back.
It's always fun to chat, and I love Barnaby and can't wait to see more. And thank you for joining Maria and me on this episode of the BookWorthy podcast. Check the show notes for any books or links that we discussed, and let us know in the comments what's your favorite thing about summer. And be sure to check out BookWorthy's Summer Reading Challenge. You and your kids can compete and complete the challenge. I know it. Check out the Summer Reading Challenge at www.valeriefentress.com, and be sure to like and subscribe so we can discover more great books together. Happy reading!